It's time.
Rest clinches a spot in the Rip Curl WSL Finals.
Surfing's biggest day is set.
Add him to your list. He's in the Final Five.
The Final Five, men and women, have a chance to cement their own legacy.
Never expected to be here in this situation, so we'll give it a red-hot crack.
They alone control their fate.
Now I'm ready for the finals. See you soon, Trestles.
Throws plenty of speed. She hangs on to that one.
Just gets spit out.
10 unique journeys have led to this moment.
Radical call here, a complete incomplete.
The biggest upset of the contest so far.
The inspiration has been found.
Morgan Siblic's head-to-head record with John Florence is going to be 2-zip.
Sally Fitzgibbons tucking in. Wow.
The preparation has been done.
I hope I can make things shake a little bit.
It's time to leave it all in the water.
It's one of the best single manoeuvres we've seen in women's competition.
It's time for one to rise.
Get to duke it out and have a shot at a world title, so fired up.
Will you choke? Will you make it work? Will you win?
It's time for the Rip Curl WSL Finals.
I've been having this vision. I've been having this vision. Either rise or you fall. I'm on a mission, bringing my dreams to fruition. I ain't playing at all. Bring out the body bags. I'm about to kill them, deliver them to the mortician. I gotta do what I gotta do. That's for my vision. I gotta do what I gotta do. Pray to God, he never came. I'ma do me, I'ma do me. That's in my blood. I'll never change. That's in my blood. I'll never change. That's in my blood. I'll never change.
Good morning, everyone, and a special good morning to Bethany Hamilton. Carissa Moore got down here nice and early. Joanne DeFay taking the local route on a Super 73. Connor Coffin, safety first, always promotes wearing a helmet on those e-bikes. And Stephanie Gilmore, a 7-time world champ, getting down here on dark. Seat number 2, Tatiana Weston-Webb, and seat number 3, a 3-time runner-up in the world, Sally Fitzgibbons. Always out there on dark, and in this case, in the fog as well this morning. It was almost impossible to see the famous Lower's Peak. And we were able to see Sally Fitzgibbons come out to the water's edge, and she, in fact, was the first person in the water this morning, here on Monday morning. As we know, we went on yellow alert yesterday. Jessie Miley-Dyer said there's a big shot that we'd be crowning our champions. Here on Monday, the fog slowing things down like it tends to do here in Southern California. And a big morning, everyone out there watching the Rip Curl WSL Finals. Joe Turpel, Rosie Hodge, and Mitchell Salazar. Rosie, as we know, sometimes we have this big roll into a massive day, and it's a foggy morning to kick things off. Pretty typical, though, in San Clemente to wake up to conditions like this.
Definitely, Joe. Well, one thing I love about surfing, and that can sometimes throw a spanner in the works, is that we are at the mercy of Mother Nature. You know, you've got that colder water coming into that warmer air. It gets that fog layer. So we just got to wait for that marine layer to burn off, and we anticipate a great day.
Good news is, Mitchell, you got pretty excited when you did see a good angle of the peak when things started clearing up. Definitely that swell showing up a lot more than what we saw yesterday.
100%, and after having several days where we had that north wind into Lower Trestles, like we're actually seeing the peak now. It had basically just been the left over the last few days, and now we actually have both waves, the left and the right.
It's interesting on a building swell, what's going to happen through match 1 all the way to the title match if we are called on today. Surfers are always so smart at adapting. But if you surf early in the morning, you got to kind of grow with this swell as it builds throughout Monday.
Yeah, definitely. I think we're going to see a lot of that today. We are seeing that energy hitting the buoy, so that longer period swell, that south swell is arriving. So definitely the guys are going to have to pace themselves throughout the day. A lot of surfing to be done.
Well, we're not allowed to put it on green. It's still on yellow alert. So let's see if we're going to turn that to green right now. Good morning to Kaipo Guerrero with Jessie Miley-Dyer.
Thank you, Joe. 24 hours ago, we went yellow. We're anticipating a start for finals day today with the call. Jessie.
Yeah, so we're actually going to go on hold. We've got a pretty thick fog in here right now, and it's really hard to see the lineup. So we're going to be on hold for an hour. Next call is 8:30.
And so what's the process of this right now, monitoring the conditions as far as the fog and the surf and so forth?
Yeah, so fog is actually really hard to predict. We've got a couple of people up and down the coast, but you know, we've been here for a while now, and when I walked down on the side about 5:45, it was really, really thick, and pretty obvious it was going to be an issue for us today, yeah.
So when could we get a start, given that the next call is 8:30?
We'd be looking to start at 9 o'clock, so it would be 8:30 call for a possible 9 o'clock start.
Let's talk about big picture here. This is historic in professional surfing. We're going to crown a men's and a women's world champ on the same day. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, there's something really special about having men's and women's world champs being crowned on the same day in the same conditions. I definitely think it's a really powerful image for, you know, all the young girls out there to see men's and women standing next to each other at the very pinnacle of the sport. So I'm really excited to do that.
Anticipation, Joe, and we're going to wait 8:30 call, and we'll see if we're going to kick off finals day.
That's right. Thank you, Kaipo, and thank you, Jesse. So we're not running away. We're still on yellow, and we'll just wait to see if it's got great visibility for our surfers, for our judges to see that peak. We've been down here for a while for lower CT events, and this happens quite often. We've gone on fog delays in the past, and hopefully things clear up so we can get them out in the water at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, definitely. Well, the good news is I am seeing little pockets of sunshine, so there is hope, and more of the water. We're seeing more waves come through as that swell starts to build, so conditions are looking fun. There's a lot of people on the beach.
Mitch, last night I was blown away. People were camping out really early. I saw a family walking with an ice chest that were miles away to get a spot on the cobblestones early in the morning to see history made today.
Yeah, and it's crazy. I mean, look at the crowd right now. There's a lot of surfers out there in the lineup right now, but look at the beach. It's incredible to see that we're seeing this amount of support for such a historic day in professional surfing. I mean, we already had one great thing happen in Tokyo, and that to have this and potentially crown Olympic gold medalists and world champions in the same year, that's amazing. Like, I'm so stoked for it.
Oh, we're absolutely stoked. One thing we were pumped on, too, was getting a really healthy Surfline forecast, where this is really the moment we've been waiting for in the waiting period. Today's Monday, September 13th. We do have all the way to the 17th if we need it. As Surfline was showing us the map, seeing that very active South Pacific, really seeing that solid long period southwest groundswell fill in throughout today, even into tomorrow. And Rosie, you were telling us we have options into Wednesday, Thursday if we want.
Yeah, this is such a great problem to have, is that multiple days look like they have opportunity to run. And it's just so great to see that active South Pacific really lighting up. This swell window, historically, this time period in September, Lower Trestles is going to have waves.
And always great to have an event that's still building with size and kind of peaking towards the final time. So surfers will be adapting to that throughout the day, Mitch.
Yeah, and the forecast did change yesterday afternoon, too. As you see, Tuesday, Wednesday, now the periods were longer those days, 20 seconds. Now it's down to 18, but I really do like how tomorrow's shaping up. But the good thing about today still is that it's an increasing swell during the day. And I think the shape's going to better when the swell increases as well.
A lot to look forward to if we are called on. Just remember, Jessie Miley-Dyer said we are going to wait due to some fog that we have in the lineup, and she'll hopefully make a call around 8:30 in the morning to kick things off. If we do start at 9 o'clock with those opening matches, it would be the early rounds with Stephanie Gilmore and Joanne DeFay, and then we go to the men, Connor Coffin versus Morgan Siblick. So we see women's, men's matches 1, 2, and 3. Leading up into the title match, women kicking that one off. Carissa's already in that title match. Men's title match has world number 1 Gabriel Medina just waiting to see who's going to battle against for a title showdown.
My favorite thing about this format, though, Joe and Mitch, is that, you know, it's best of 3 for those title matchups. I like that, you know, these, you know, Carissa, Gabriel, they wait to see who their opponents are, and then they get to go bout for bout. Three matchups on the way for that final.
Does it feel like it's going to go to 3 today?
You know what? Based off of what I saw yesterday from Gabe, I'm saying no. But I wouldn't be surprised if the women's goes all the way, because given the conditions, I do think that it's going to benefit a lot of the women. I think especially Stephanie Gilmore. And Tati could be the surprise, too, because she's the only goofy footer in the draw. I think those long backhand arcs could really pay dividends here at Lower Trestles.
Sally told us the other day it just feels like a much longer event. We always know it's going to be done in one day, but just the anticipation, the build-up, preparing, and all the focus from media for good reason. She said it actually feels like a much longer event than she's ever felt in her career. That's been over a decade, Rosie.
Yeah, and I love all the speculation and the scenarios that we're putting our mind to, but it was so interesting catching up with Tyler Wright yesterday, the two-time world champ. She was saying, you know, to prepare for an event like that, in all honesty, you need 12 weeks. And we're coming hot off the heels of the Mexico event. So these surfers, these contenders, they've had to put their nose to the grindstone. They know that they got to get to work. It's a one-day event, but they've got to like keep something in the tank. I think the free surfs, they've kind of been holding their cards close to their chest, but I think we're going to see them start to release that energy.
Oh, great call, Rosie. Let's actually take a closer look at the women's bracket. Stephanie Gilmore, Joanne DeFay actually tied for 4th coming into the Rip Curl WSL finals. They broke the tie with just average heat score from this season. So Steph got the 4th spot, Joanne 5th. It didn't really matter because they're always going to be in that first match being 4th and 5th. Fitzgibbons waiting at seed number 3rd, Tatiana Weston-Wedd number 2 seed, and Carissa Moore looking for a 5th world title. We'll see if that happens today. On the men's side, Connor, Morgan, 2 guys that haven't won a CT event, but were ultra consistent this year, Mitch.
Yeah, and their best results were both on their backhand, but if I'm looking at the draw right now and I'm looking at conditions, I think it just benefits Gabe and Italo way too much because the left has been better than the right lately. And if you're talking about variation of critical maneuvers in the air, those 2 guys have it on the forehand.
So true. A lot of high energy, impactful free surf sessions for Italo. I saw him ollie over a Grom the other day just to get some space. That was radical. He's been trying about 8 different boards a day to find whatever could be magic for what would be a championship title day today. We've got a long morning because we're going to be checking these conditions, anticipating potential yellow alert to turn green. And more talk on the front side. Cork, seen around the world from Gabriel Medina. That's coming up next.
Welcome back, everybody. We're at the Rip Curl WSL Finals. Waves are really fun. We're sitting in a ceremonial circle right now. We got fog all the way around us, but right here on the peak, we've got sunshine. So hopefully this sticks around and everything cleans up. Swell is here. Conditions have a little lump on it. We had that wind last night, so we got a little bump coming in off of the northwest wind swell. So it's got a lip line that's kind of undulated. So finding that lip line will be technical today. But let me tell you, the waves are here, the people are here, everybody's out in the lineup enjoying it right now. And you know what, the water, a little bit chilly, but you know what, I got my nice little Rip Curl wetsuit on, keeping me nice and warm out here. And I think that, well, it's up to me, I'm just frothing, wanting it to go. So we'll find out what happens. We are on hold. We're gonna make another call, I think at 8:30, and then we'll get into the real business of it all. But I'm gonna be out here catching some waves. Did a little R&D, got a couple waves, had a lot of fun. But we'll see what happens as we count this thing down. On the beach right now, we got Peter Mel on the cobblestones. Professor Pete, what do you got?
Oh, I love you, Strider. Good to be here once again, and definitely the sun is now out. We're starting to see that peak. The tide right now, dead low. It's not that low, though, about 2.3 feet, and then it's going to rise through the afternoon. Right around 3 o'clock, we'll see that high tide, which I think is great conditions for a contest today because we have that swell building today. We'll see some consistency lift, and definitely now we can see the lineup. I know that the lefts look pretty good today because I've seen them. I've been paying attention, and they're nice and steep. The rights are a little harder to find, so we'll see what happens as the day progresses, but I think with the tide, it kind of starts to centralize. And then you look at this crowd. I mean, as we pan around to the crowd, it is pumped. Everyone's here. They're ready. They want to see this competition go. And over at that lowers left, Chris Cote, you're over there with Shannon Hughes. What are you guys seeing over on that side?
Oh, it is a beautiful morning down here. There are some great lefts that have been coming through the lineup. Cote, we got so many crew down here heading out in the lineup, maybe even to get some waves with their heroes.
Oh, I mean, you can tell this crowd is feeling it. We are basically surrounded by the entire Brazilian Storm fan base. I'm looking and seeing a lot of flags, and I'm feeling the energy. And there are 3 people in this 10 surfer draw that are going to be very excited to know that these lefts could be going off today.
Well, it's just incredible. It's incredible to see that fan base that has arrived and have been hitting the lineup as well. We've seen one of those Brazilians really start stepping up the game in those free surfs. Cote, Gabriel Medina. What do we see from him yesterday?
I mean, of the 3-headed monster, Gabriel Medina has been putting on an absolute clinic out here day in, day out. Of the entire field, Gabriel Medina is by far the most consistent. You see the flip right there. I mean, the tricks that he does are out of this world, and there are really only a handful of people on the planet that can do an air like this. I mean, this air dates back to, you know, the mid-2000s, 2010, 2011, guys like Flynn Novak, Timmy Curran, doing, you know, rotations upside down like Gabriel Medina does. But the thing about Gabriel Medina is he has the uncanny ability to pretty much do that whenever he wants. We saw him do it in Mexico on a really lackluster section that nobody thought was going to be anything. He does a flip. We saw him yesterday afternoon. The waves were not great, but what he did right there shows that he can make even mediocre moments so special. I mean, Gabriel Medina has to be the most consistent surfer on the planet when he gets up into the air.
Well, he just made it look so easy. It was as effortless as can be. What are your thoughts on him coming into competition and being able to pull out maneuvers like that when there's the pressure? It's not just a regular contest we're coming into now at the Rip Curl WSL Finals. This is the world title on the line. It's these head-to-head matchups. It's a brand new format. Will he be able to pull those tricks out when this much pressure is on him?
The answer is yes. Gabriel Medina is the most consistent surfer on the planet. He does not fall, he does not make mistakes, and when sections arise, he always capitalizes. I mean, this is an air that for most people would be considered a Hail Mary, and we've seen that time and time again in events. Surfers just, you know, you can almost tell when they're projecting up into it, all right, just throw something at the wall and see what happens. Medina is meticulous. You know, these are all done with the absolute intent to do exactly what he's attempting to do. I mean, you could see in that clip, as he's getting ready to launch, you just knew something big was about to happen, and he's always in complete control. And that's the difference between Medina and the rest of the field. Even Italo, who is right up there with the best aerialists on the planet, you know, it's just Medina, he makes it look so solid every time. In skateboarding, you call it landing bolts. Well, that's what Medina does each and every time he takes to the air.
Well, it's as artistic as ever when Gabby Medina hits the water. We can't wait to see him actually in competition. And speaking of artwork, having a look around this beautiful environment that we're sitting in at Lower Trestles. I mean, you know, we got the marshlands, we've got the ocean behind us, and we've got an amazing artist in Jeff Lukasic. He has put together some great artwork that's been showcased around the event in partnership with Rip Curl and the WSL, the athlete jerseys as well, and we're going to have a look at how he did that.
My name is Jeff Lukasic. I'm from San Clemente, California, and I create art for a living. I started drawing in school on the side of my binders while I was probably distracted. And then I started drawing on surfboards, and it kind of just progressed over the years. And I started doing it for friends, and when I was traveling, I would draw on other people's boards, and it was just kind of a cool downtime hobby I worked on. Growing up in San Clemente and spending pretty much every waking moment at Trestles, I don't think there's really any better way. Like I honestly don't think there's any better way to grow up. I think I was making a little surf edit, and I like, oh, let's, you know, film a painting of it, like me doing a painting as a way to kind of separate myself from the other surfers, and it was just kind of a fun thing, and I've just always really enjoyed doing it. It never like seemed forced. Just experiencing whatever you're creating is just being in that place. What you're about to create is just taking it all in and then turning it into something. That's been easy because I've spent most of my life at Lowers so consistently. So I've been doing research for this project since I was a little kid. And there's just those nights where like the sun goes down and everything blows up, and it's just like surreal. And I just wanted to kind of portray that part of it. I just want to thank Rip Curl and the WSL for choosing me to be a part of this project and to create this artwork and to create something like to be a local. Like I absolutely love Lowers. It's my favorite place on earth. Like it's my happy place. And to be able to create something that's so special to me and do it for an event that's so cool, and it's just almost too good to be true. It's rad. I enjoyed every minute of the whole process, and it was just amazing.
Look at.
The Rip Curl WSL Finals are brought to you by Rip Curl, the ultimate surfing company. By Michelob Ultra Pure Gold, official beer of the World Surf League. By Hydro Flask, official insulated drinkware of the World Surf League. And by Jeep, official vehicle of the World Surf League. Welcome back to Monday morning here at the Rip Curl WSL Finals. The event is on hold. Next call, 8:30. It is about 5 to 8 local time here in Southern California. In the great city of San Clemente, you can see a lot of local fans that are already down here on the cobblestones waiting to start off one of the most anticipated days in pro surfing history. This is a good sign because we're seeing the entire peak. Fog's let up just a bit. It can be a little bit tricky at times, so Jesse Miley Dyer wanted to leave some room to move just in case the fog was going to come back in. Still looking like we're heading the right direction. Joe Turpel with Rosie Hodge and Mitchell Salazar. Rosie qualifying the same year as Stephanie Gilmore back in 2007. It's amazing to look back on your peer group. That was on the top 17, and one person still standing out and competing here today in the final 5, a 7-time world champ named Stephanie Gilmore.
Yeah, it's amazing. And just to see the progression of women surfing at the moment. I mean, knowing, you know, Carissa, Sally since they were super young, and now the likes of Tati and Joanne, it's just been amazing. And it's good to see the veteran Steph Gilmore still in there and in with a chance to win an unprecedented 8th world title, Joe.
It's really cool, Mitch, when you see a surfer with a legacy like Steph Gilmore. And for you, how has her surfing changed and evolved in what could be called one of the best careers of all time?
Yeah, it's a good point too, because I feel that her results don't necessarily speak for the surfing that she's had this year. She's had some excellent heats, some great ones too, and I think Mex really allowed that kind of surfing. But over the course of her 14-year career, she's won 7 titles. I mean, that's 50% of the years she's been on tour, she's won a championship. And let's not take into account the years that she's been injured, and she's still been in the top 10. One thing I do want to say here about Lower Trestles, though, the peak tends to move a lot. And Steph tends to have a difficulty with waves that kind of change the pace, and they veer more towards the left or towards the right. She's great at point breaks. This isn't necessarily a point break. It's more of a cobblestone peak. So when that happens, somebody like Joanne DeFay, who she has in match 1, she tends to move around quite a bit. And I think that could affect Steph's mind.
So much good insight. Rosie, when you were on tour with Steph in those days, did you often talk to the head judge at the time to talk about your scores, win or lose?
Yeah, do you know what? It's something that I wish I had done a bit more, and it's something that the judges are open to, like going and having a chat with the judges, figuring out, you know, what they're looking for throughout the day. I think as a competitor, that's a great little attribute to do. Just go have a little word with the judges and really figure out what they're seeing for the day.
Well, Rosie, if you didn't ask the questions then, you have the opportunity now. Rich Porter was the head judge when you were on tour for the women, then went to men's head judge after that. Rich, thanks for being with us this morning.
Morning, Joe. Morning, Rosie.
Was that a constant thing, Rich? You know, throughout your years as head judge, was there a constant just opening of the door from the surfers on tour to ask questions? Does that happen on the daily?
I was actually quite surprised, Joe, by how few at times the door opened to talk to the surfers. Like, the judges are always open to talking and chatting, you know, just not as obviously while the contest is on, but that day to day, you know, walking down the beach, whatever. They're really open sort of guys and girls, and a few of the surfers would come and chat to me. I would have thought there was going to be more, but yeah, surprisingly not that many. They came to complain, obviously.
That's always good.
As you'd expect. But that general conversation, a couple of the really clever ones used to ask a lot, and you would always answer because that's part of your job, was educating the surfers on how to get through heats.
Well, Rich, I think we just need to follow up on Rosie's question that she had for you yesterday, like about the 10-point ride. Will we ever see it again? And then in the free surf, we saw Medina do that Flintstone flip rotation and then the air reverse to follow. You know, now can we talk about the 10?
Well, it's irony, isn't it? But I did speak to the head judge for Tamo Arendt yesterday and got his take on it, and he said it was a really well executed maneuver, and obviously if say that was the first time we'd seen it, then maybe you know, you can go there, but we've seen it before, and the air reverse after it, that's pretty stock standard now. So having said that, you look at the size of that wave, that was a pretty small wave that he did it on and executed it perfectly. So who knows, you know, if he does that on a big section today because the waves are a lot bigger, you can't say never, but they are, as I said yesterday, they're hard to write that number 10 down on their score sheets.
And interesting, Rich, looking into a day like today, obviously the swell's shown up. Have you talked to the crew, the panel, about the criteria that we'd have today?
Yeah, and as we've alluded to all week, they're really chasing those combinations of major manoeuvres because the sections are allowing it to do it. They're still going to look, you know, they're obviously focusing on that innovative and progressive manoeuvres because that's how surfing travels along. The combination for me is the key, and it's the judges look at that as well because we all like to see the single big move, but when you can bang a few together, that really starts to get the judges' attention. The speed, power and flow, that's there today because the surf allows that. We spoke about that yesterday. And that variety comes into it because there's nothing worse than seeing the same turn, the same turn, the same turn. So the surfers know that and they will mix up their repertoire wave to wave.
And Rich, you know, I'm going to make up for last time. Yeah, I've got a question for you. We do have that building swell today and we want to see a lot of surfing. And obviously these guys are going to be surfing a lot of heats. The opportunity for jet ski assist, are we going to see it today, and is it something that will be of value?
We are going to see jet ski assist. Often we don't use it here because the reason you don't use it is the ripple effect. The last thing you want to do is to have a ski drag one surfer out, then the surfer takes the next wave and has some wake through the water. So what they're going to do is the surfer is going to finish their ride, the ski will pick them up, they'll punch through the wave, where the waves close out, then drive them out slowly. Not all the way. They're going to stop a fair distance from the peak, but it's just so that they don't have to paddle that far, and then the surfers will jump off the back of the ski and paddle out. It's not like a personal taxi. You can't catch a wave on the right, get on the ski and say to the driver, I want to go around to the left now. They're not going to do that. They're going to make you go the same way that you caught the wave. If someone breaks a board or breaks a leash, the ski can pick them up, drop them in front of the surfers area where they can change their board with the caddy on the shore. And then the ski will drive them out through the left because that's the lesser of two evils with wake on the ski. Sometimes you'll see the surfers opt not to take it, but if you get like a really long right, you're going to see them jump on the back of the ski for sure, because why wouldn't you when you don't have to paddle?
Makes sense.
Yeah. No, Rich, I got a question for you. When it comes to innovative and progressive maneuvers, we're also counting maneuvers that are on rail, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be in air.
Yeah, great question, Mitch. And it doesn't, obviously, it's not innovative and progressive means just straight up aerials. It just means taking different lines, you know, and putting yourself on the wave into these positions that is a little bit more modern, let's say, for want of a better word. So it doesn't really tie everything to an aerial maneuver, although aerials obviously are the key to getting that bigger score. So yeah, both ways. You can have innovative and progressive with your rail still in the water for sure.
Rich Porta, we're going to take advantage of this, especially Rosie. We're going to be banging down that door throughout the day today. Thank you so much for the insight here at the Rip Curl WSL Finals. We're going to take a quick break. Remember, we're still on hold. Calls coming up very soon, but we have a very special guest. Four-time world champ Lisa Anderson is with Chris Cote. We'll be right back.
Well, we knew the superstars of surfing were going to be out today, and no star shines quite as bright as our next guest. I'm very excited to bring to Dawn Patrol, 4-time world champion, surfer who's in every Surfing Hall of Fame all over the planet. I could keep going on and on, but, you know, this is Lisa Anderson. You all know that out there, an icon of our sport. Welcome to Lower Trestles, Lisa.
Well, thank you for that welcome. Very, very honored to be here. It's going to be an awesome event. I can't wait.
Well, we've got a brand new format. We've got 10 surfers that are going to be hitting this lineup, all capable of winning a world title for the first time ever, crowning a man and a woman in our championship matches today. This is going to be a classic day of surfing. I know you have a long history here at Lower Trestles. You've competed here. You've free surfed here many, many times in the past. Tell us about your history with this wave, and what are you looking forward to when surfing starts today, potentially?
Well, my history's pretty short. I could probably count that many waves on both hands. So it's everyone knows that it's a pretty tough wave to catch when catch a couple good ones when you're free surfing out there. And but I've had some great moments, and I did compete back in the day. I think one event a very long time ago when you're a wee little boy. But good times always here at Lowers. The surfing level is always so high here. You always feel you're at your best because the wave just allows you to just unleash out here. You get some of your best moves that you've ever had out here. I've seen some of the best surfing I've ever seen, from the amateur ranks all the way to the professional ranks. And I don't know, this is probably one of my favorite waves to watch any event.
Absolutely. This is a wave that really showcases the talents of all of our surfers. You have big barreling, scary waves like Pipeline, Chopo, then you have long point breaks, J-Bay. But Lowers is a little something different. Truly the most high performance wave in America, for sure, if not the world. What kind of surfing excites you out here? The power, the progression, what are you looking for?
Basically everything. I know you got all kinds of surfers and different approaches to waves. For me, I love the big carves. I love that's like my favorite kind of surfing. The airs are exciting. It's really hard for me to get too excited about them, but just like good old-fashioned surfing. And the one thing that sticks out to me is the Kelly Slater in black and white film back in the day. I wonder how many people woke up and said Star Trunks.
Star Trunks.
So it's just like, for me, that was my memory, and that's how I always wanted to approach the wave out here, just like Kelly. I don't think anyone surfs it any better.
Yeah, so when you think about the draw we have, let's start with the women's bracket. So this is an incredible mix of surfers. In the past 5 or so years, I've always looked at the Women's Championship Tour as the Big Five, the names that we always see year in, year out. But in this bracket right here, starting with such a hammer of a match, Jean Defay, Stephanie Gilmore, let's project a little bit. That will be the first heat we potentially see this morning. What are you looking forward to in that matchup?
It's an interesting call because it depends on the conditions. For me, it seems like right now it's changing a little bit every few minutes, so it's hard to say. In 1 minute I've got this person in my camp, and the next second I've got the other person in my camp, so I feel like it's just hard to make a call right now because the conditions are not quite there for me. So.
And as we move on up through the bracket, Sally Fitzgibbons is a name that's always been there. I'm not even going to mention the quote-unquote second place curse because she's obviously exceeded all expectations on her illustrious career. What do you think Sally Fitzgibbons has to prove today?
All I know is if Sally's going left, look out, because I think her backhand is pretty strong. I like Joanne, but I think that it just depends on the wind out here. If the wind starts coming from the north, and I'm looking at the lefts, and I'm looking at my whole crew changes from there. It changes from one side to the other. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the call. Sally's strong point is definitely her backhand. I love watching her serve. I've watched her serve since she's probably 13 years old, and I'm just so proud to see her get to this moment. I'm excited for her.
Yeah, all surfers still with a chance to win the title out there. That brings us to Tatiana Weston-Webb, the sole goofy footer in the women's bracket. To me, you hear that term point of difference a lot when it comes to surfing competition. So far, it's been kind of like you said, rights and lefts switching off and on and over the span of 20 minutes. So for Tatiana Weston-Webb, linking into one of those rights and unleashing could be the big difference between her and the rest of the field.
Yeah. And for Tati, I think the big backhand hammer turn she does so well, under the lip, bashes, carves, and all that she's so good at. I mean, that's going to be definitely something I'd be watching out for her. And then if she goes left, she's still got those big carves as well, and she can get a little innovative on the end. So I'd like to see her kind of go to the air. It'd be cool.
And we've been talking about our top-seeded surfers for both men and women as kind of the end bosses. You've got to get through the end boss to get the title. The end boss for the women, Carissa Moore, so consistent, so polished, so confident. Probably had one of the best years she's had, which is saying a lot. She's had a lot of good years. For Carissa Moore, what does she have to do today to defend that top position?
You know, it's interesting because competitive surfing is so tricky, and you put in your head too much sometimes, and even if I'm not in the contest, I'm still trying to think what they're thinking and how they're sleeping and all that stuff, because it's really intense. I woke up at 3 this morning because I couldn't sleep any longer. I was like ready to come down, and I think for Carissa, like being on a roll and stuff like that is really good for her. But Sept did win the last event, so I think maybe the nod is in her favor. Also, like with the size of the waves today, maybe those big carves, those big rooster fans, they're just going to be something. I think that I would love to see those guys meet there, but you just can't tell right now.
I love it. This is it is really tough, especially to call on the women's bracket. Now let's talk about the men's bracket. I know you watch a lot of these surfers for a long time. You've seen Connor Coffin growing up, no doubt, from here in California. He's going up against Morgan Siblick. This match, I think, in a lot of people's opinion, is the toughest to call. These surfers so evenly matched up out here at Lowers.
Yeah, I'm just getting to know Morgan, and I love his surfing. I was out here the other day watching him free surf, and he's very exciting to watch. He's kind of reminds me a little bit of Mick Fanning, how he's just fast and really low center of gravity. I don't know. He's got a tough one with Connor. Connor's the big carve master, and I love those carves. So it's really going to be, I think, a wave selection out here. Obviously, there's a bit of bump out there today, so if it is on, there's a lot of sections, and I just want to see some big carving. So.
Yeah. Well, that brings us to the three-headed monster, starting with Felipe Toledo. I know this crew all right here, flying the flags. They are pumped up to see what this Brazilian squad brings to us today. Felipe has been going off out here in free surf sessions. What do you think Felipe's chances of taking that top spot?
I think Philippe's got a really big chance, and I, for one, am cheering for the underdog, but I would love to see him come up and take the win. I'd love to see him become world champion. I think he's worked really hard for it, and I know it's going to be tough for him to get up there and see those other two guys. I mean, those guys are unstoppable, but I think he's got a good camp here. He's living here right now, so I think that it's important to have a good family support group. And from what I heard in the parking lot this morning, it sounds like they're already whistling and cheering right now as we speak. So it's all on.
And then that brings us to your reigning world champion, and of course, Gabriel Medina, your current top seed. These two surfers, the two most explosive surfers on the planet, the two fastest, most consistent. I mean, they have all the stats in their favor. Italo, Gabriel, if you had to pick between those two.
Oh, man, I don't know. Like, I've actually got to see up close Gabriel's fins a few times out the back. So I'm just a big fan of Ilo. His personality is just so infectious, and I love how I mean, I don't know how, with all that pressure you have on you to go out and perform at that level you do, and I couldn't imagine surfing like that under that much pressure, and it's just, you just never know where you're going to get. These guys will paddle out, and you think you've seen the best air in the world the last contest, and then all of a sudden they one-up you, and it's going to be an incredible match if that's the case, and I'm just looking forward to it. I'm so happy I got a front row seat.
Well, you know that it's going to be a big day when legends like Lisa Anderson are here before dawn to catch all the action. So I'm sure we'll be able to catch up with Lisa later on today, but we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with more Dawn Patrol from the Rip Curl WSL Finals. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the Rip Curl WSL Finals. I'm here right outside of the Red Bull Athlete Zone in the parking lot, where we have the VIPs. Our athletes have the Super 73 electric bikes here, personalized license plate, and a nice little note on these electric bikes telling the surfers, save your legs for the contest. This whip is on us. Congratulations and best of luck on your way to a world title. And this is just deluxe transportation that we have for all of our athletes. They can park it right here, head into the locker room, and get ready to do battle.
Look incredible. And have you tried one yet? Are you allowed to even touch Medina's?
I'm not, Joe, I don't think I'm allowed to touch any of these bikes right now. They've taken away the key, and for good cause as well. But it's really, I mean, everything about this setup right here is making the athletes as comfortable as possible, because it's going to be a challenging day physically and mentally. So this is the zone, and this is the entrance, and this is where all is going to start.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, great job, Garrett Turk, getting involved with Red Bull to get all those Super 73s for everybody. What about the Red Bull Athlete Zone itself, Kaipo? We're used to seeing top 34 in the world plus wild cards, top 17 plus wild cards. Whole different story here at an event like this.
Let's put it this way, Joe. It's a much more spacious locker room for the Final Five. And it really is decked out. As we say, 5 are going to enter, and just 1 is going to become world champ. And so we anticipate that, but this is where it's all going to launch off. We got the coaches, we got the surfers, and it's very limited access into here, but the athlete zone is the nicest I've seen to date.
Also, your hair is the nicest I've seen this season. You can tell it's a championship day. Thank you, Kaipo. We'll be catching up with you throughout the day today. Still waiting to see if we'll go from yellow to green alert to call this big world title day on. Joe with Rosie Mitchell. Looking at the bracket, it was really fun to hear Cote and a 4-time world champ, Lisa Anderson, break it down. And I kind of related with Lisa with her mindset of going, I think about this a lot, and it's starting to change as you look at different waves. I think surfing in general, it's so hard to predict champions. That's why it was amazing that Kaipo won the fantasy season. It's so hard to do, but especially with the best 5 in the world, it's been really tough to find that road all the way to the title match.
Yeah, I actually just got butterflies thinking about, you know, just putting myself in the situation of the athletes and the headspace and what they would be feeling coming into this unique format. None of the surfers, although Steph's got 7 world titles and Carissa's got 4, this is a whole new ball game. So how are these athletes going to approach this setup?
It's so interesting you say that, because every world title, even for Steph and Carissa, was won in different ways, sometimes different schedules, especially this season in general. Surviving through some of those new events weren't easy to do when we think about some of the big names not here.
Yeah.
First one that pops into my mind, 2-time world champ Tyler Wright.
Yeah, she's one of them for sure. I'm also surprised to not see Lakey Peterson here, but she obviously had a couple of injuries to deal with. But I do want to say Lisa was spot on in her analysis with these waves, because I think if we look at the next 2 days in the forecast, say we don't run today, hypothetically, the game changes yet again. Because the more it lines up, the more it benefits certain surfers. And the more it stays the way it is right now, it benefits a certain number of people. And I think, especially when it comes to Joanne Defay in that match number 1 against Stephanie Gilmore, the more it's focused on the lefts, the better she's probably going to do. And that also means that every match progressively, she could even do better there. But I personally think that if this fog goes away, today might be the day. It just feels like it. There's that momentum on the beach, that energy. It just feels like a championship day.
As we check out the bracket here for the Rip Curl WSL Finals, 5th seed surfing against 4th seed. That's Defay versus Stephanie Gilmore. As we always know, with a decorated surfer like Gilmore, she gets all the hype for good reason, being one of the all-time greats. Really, what are Defay's chances to cause a massive upset first thing in the morning?
I think they're really good, and I think as we pause, you know, we're looking at a hold, we've had an amber alert, we've had a couple days to warm up. You're really seeing, you know, the mental fortitude come into play right now, because it's almost like a stop-start. You've really got to hold your horses, and I think for Joanne, when we look at, you know, her social media, she's putting so much time into training. There's a lot of, you know, coaching that's going on. So I think, man, I'd love to see Joanne do well, but I think at the end of the day, you don't get to be a 7-time world champ without having that competitive edge. So it's going to be a great match. I'm interested to see it, but I think Steph Gilmore just has that little notch above.
I love all these predictions. And one thing DeFay should be proud of is beating Carissa Moore in consecutive events this season.
Right.
No one's done that since Tyler Wright in 2016. Let's get caught up with Joanne DeFay on how she got her spot in the Rip Curl WSL Finals.
France's Joanne DeFay remains an unheralded hero of the Women's Championship Tour. That could change in 2021.
I mean, she's been charging up the rankings for the better part of the last 5 years.
Joanne DeFay, it's got to be the most underrated surfer on tour.
We're live from Honolulu Bay. Joanne DeFay screaming through those opening rounds. Huge scores put together.
Joanne got off to a slow start with a 9th place finish at the Maui Pro.
The World Surf League Championship Tour continues with stop number 2.
At the Rip Curl Newcastle Cup, Joanne found her form and earned a 5th place finish.
Just some really smart, clean surfing from Joanne.
The Australian leg continued, and she secured another quarterfinal result.
She really needs to do something special here, Joe. It's an 8.
Joanne DeFay, incredible composure, but another big upset, seeing our world champion knocked out.
I had a heartbreak there. I was like, I couldn't breathe. I was like, I'm so stoked.
Joanne's consistency continued with a 3rd, 5th place finish in Margaret River.
There's that big first turn, and what a way to snap into rhythm.
The Australian leg wrapped up with Joanne finding the podium for the first time in 2021.
You just can't deny the placement of these turns and the flow in which Joanne surfs.
Your runner-up of the final from Reunion Island, Joanne DeFay, now positioning herself in that final 5, heading into the Surf Ranch.
The 2019 Surf Ranch Pro runner-up entered the basin as an event favorite.
Big power hack for DeFay.
Oh my gosh, did you see it? She got spit out of that barrel.
Joanne matched up against Carissa Moore in the final, and for the 2nd time this season, she defeated the rankings leader.
Scores are in for Joanne DeFay, and she does it. The Jeep Surf Ranch Pro presented by Adobe champion. Joanne DeFay picking up her first win of the season.
I hope I can just stay in the top 5 and make things shake a little bit.
The win moved Joanne all the way up to 2nd place on the leaderboard.
Welcome everybody to this beautiful part of the world, Oaxaca, Mexico.
The road to the WSL Finals ended in Mexico, with Joanne clinching the 5th seed in the WSL Final 5.
Super happy to be able to be part of that top 5 for sure, and for the first time ever, so it's pretty cool.
DeFay heads to California with an opportunity to become France's first ever world champion.
What a year it's been for Joanne DeFay, Rookie of the Year, Breakthrough Performer back in 2014, and look where she sits now. We always talk about wins and finals. Obviously, those are celebrated. We remember those in history, but one heat maybe stands out more than another for me this year was how she came from behind and beat Tyler Wright at Narrabeen. She got Tyler to lose priority. She made that mistake to come back to win, and that was a turning point for me watching how much she's learned competitively with her strategy, and that just kicked off some momentum where she was able to come to Lower Trestles this year.
Yeah, definitely. And another moment is you think about the Surf Ranch and what it took for her to take that win over Carissa Moore. Carissa's been so dominant at that location, but we knew, you know, Surf Ranch really sets you apart. It's that pressure that builds on you, and you alone have to meet that moment, and I think Joanne did that so well.
Oh, really brilliant year for Joanne DeFay, and it looks like it is time for an update on the call. Jesse Miley-Dyer is with Kaipo.
Thanks, Joe. Jesse, we've been on hold. What's the call?
Yeah, the call is we're actually going to be off for today. This fog is not lifting, so, you know, we're going to be off. It's not possible for us to see right now, so we're going to remain on yellow for tomorrow, and the next call will be 7:30 tomorrow.
You know, I think the good news is that we have, Jess, is that we have a ton of swell in the water. We're going to have swell for the next few days. Talk to us a little bit about what we see in the next couple of days as far as swell and potential to run.
For sure. So tomorrow and the next day both look really good, and that's you know, one good thing that makes us feel really confident still in you know, this forecast is that we have, you know, more days coming in the window, and you know, the swell is meant to peak throughout today, and I think tomorrow or the next day is a really good chance to run, and hopefully, you know, we're not going to have this fog issue tomorrow and it'll be pumping.
And as we look into finals day and overall run time to crown a world champ, what are we looking at? How full is the day in surfing? How many hours of surfing are we going to see?
Well, we're actually, you know, if both of our world title matches go down to the third heat, we'll be finishing around 3:30 in the afternoon, start at 8 a.m., finish at 3:30.
Historic day. We look forward to it, guys. Joe, I guess we just got to go surfing for today.
Let's go rip, Kaipo. Yeah, and I love how calm Jessie is. That's why she's in the position that she is today. You know, she knows there's so many days left. She goes on yellow for a reason. You always got to come down and check it first thing, old school style. First thing in the morning, this fog. You can tell behind us. I mean, Lowers is right there. We just can't see the peak. So building swell. We'll see what we have tomorrow morning. As we dive into the Surfline forecast, remember we have all the way till September 17th to crown our world champions. Today is Monday the 13th here in Southern California as we see that very active South Pacific, Mitchell.
Yeah, it looks great. As Jesse said, the swell actually peaks tonight. But the good thing about tomorrow is that the swell period is longer, which means that we're going to have cleaner sets, cleaner waves, and I think it's also going to set up a lot better lines for these surfers to actually be out there and compete at their best.
We'll see, Rosie. If the fog burns out soon, it could be an unbelievable warm-up day for some of the best surfers in the world.
Yeah, I definitely think the camera lenses aren't going to be going anywhere today. They're going to wait for a little bit of a break in the fog because, yeah, these guys are going to have opportunity to get a couple moves in. And then looking at Tuesday, Wednesday, like we said, we're going to see that swell kind of peak overnight. And then I think it's really going to settle into itself here at Lower Trestles. It really likes that six-foot range, and you see 6 to 10 there. So I think we're going to see it settle in really nicely. These offshores hopefully will stick around, and we'll see some great surfing.
Awesome. Still at yellow alert. Tomorrow looking incredibly promising to get a big start here at the Rip Curl WSL Finals. We'll take a quick break. Another very special guest, a two-time world champ, former champ at Lowers, Tyler Wright, is with Chris Cote.
Welcome back to Dawn Patrol here at the Rip Curl WSL Finals. Chris Cote, and like I said earlier, we are going to be seeing superstars of our sport all day long. I've got one of them right here, Tyler Wright. Welcome back to Dawn Patrol.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, very excited to have you, and I wanted to ask you, there's no other sport on the planet as unpredictable as surfing. We have to wait for waves, wind, fog. Who would have thought of fog? But
I know.
As we know, surfers have the unique ability to adapt. So in your experience, you know, when you have basically a year to think about an event, and then it comes down to weeks, days, hours, minutes, how do you react when you think something might happen, something else happens, like we saw this morning?
Look, I think every competitor would have come down today to be prepared to be on. I think the fog has, you know, it's one of those things that we as surfers are just adaptable in that sense. I think a lot of these guys, well, if, you know, I would think that because they are kind of hyped up already, they'd go surfing. Even though they're not on, that, you know, they might have a break, but then come back later and kind of trying to burn that kind of anxious energy off. That's what I would probably do in this situation, is like, if we're not on, all right, kind of decompress in different ways, and then, you know, tomorrow we know the chances are it's really high again. We're on yellow alert, and yeah, that's kind of what I would think they would be doing.
Yeah, you know, it feels like the tension gets ratcheted up almost to the point of breaking, and then, okay, now we take a step back.
Yeah.
How have you in the past, and how do you think some of these surfers, you know, are able to kind of overcome the emotional toll? Because when you build yourself up for the biggest event of your career and then have to step right back, I mean, that can take it out of you, right?
Yeah, no, I think that can be mentally, emotionally draining, and then physically, then that comes into play as well. I think it will be about perspective. Also, none of these women or men have surfed in this format. But so you'd kind of think they have an idea, but they don't necessarily know how it's going to go, because no one here has done this. And I think that's the unique situation this year is that it's all new. So these guys can prepare as much as they can, but at the end of the day, when you get on the day, a whole range of different things can happen. So it is kind of like learning how to balance the amping up, amping down, like resetting. How do you do that? What methods do you have? It'll all come in, because, you know, recovery is going to be the big thing.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
And it's funny, it's kind of back to a Groundhog Day, and it's an awesome Groundhog Day. You can't get a better one than that. But I know for fans and for pundits out there watching, had Lisa Anderson right here just a few minutes ago, and people's favorites have been changing on the daily, and with different conditions, you know, people are picking different surfers to watch. Have you been going through that same thing? You know, okay, a week ago, I know exactly who's going to win. Every single day, I have the same feeling.
Yeah.
My picks from last week kind of don't make sense anymore. What about you?
Yeah. Well, look, like, I've gone through, like, emotionally who I think will win, who I want to win, what stories I think are really cool as well. Like, thinking, you know, there's just such a, every day is different. And I think as well, like, if the lefts become more predominant, you know, the women's and the men's draw, you know, your favorites change drastically. So, like, and that's on a daily basis. So, yeah, I know for me, my answers have changed a few times, but the person I want to win on the women's side is Steph. I think she's the OG. She's, you know, paved the way for all of us. But then at the same time, like, I think the sport and women's surfing is winning. The sport is winning out of this situation.
Absolutely. And now that you're here, I know you never stop working. You're definitely one of the hardest working surfers on tour. You're coming here as obviously a representative of Rip Curl, but I know in the back of your mind you have to be doing some scouting. Are you looking already strengths and weaknesses of these 5 surfers that you will be competing against next year?
Oh, 100%. Like, there's no, like, it just doesn't stop. That's just what my brain does. We're all competitors. Literally this year when I'm not in it, I was like, okay, this is a great opportunity to actually watch it, to see for the next years and the upcoming years what my limitations will be around an event like this. How will I manage my energy? How will I prepare for this? What team will I have on ground? You know, food, like, it just, recovery, it all comes into it. So really it's just a research and development stage for me and my brain. But yeah, it never really stops. We're all competitive. And so it's a great insight into the next few years.
Yeah, every once in a while, she does have fun. A lot of fun at times.
Yeah.
Just so you all know, I know you were on Dave Proden's podcast, and,
Yes.
and that must have been pretty fun.
Yeah, like a lot of this is like I think that's what people miss as well is that I'm a huge fan of the sport. Like I've been on the couch for the last few years, most of it, and have, I'm obsessed with this sport. There's so much potential. There's so many different things that I think, I feel like we're a young sport. So the real intricacies and the real intriguing parts are only really developing now. And, as an athlete, I'm really aware of them. But like when I get to be at an event and be in a relaxed state, like I'm here technically on vacation. I'm here with my girlfriend and we've been doing all sorts of different stuff. But to be able to come here as a spectator, as a fan, like I think that's fun for me. Like I generally enjoy myself here.
Oh, I'm right there with you. We actually got a chance to hang out a little bit down in Mexico at the last event, and my takeaway from that was it is absolutely okay and actually encouraged to be a surf nerd super fan. Get into it, dig into the stats. It makes it just that much more fun the more you know about it. And for Tyler Wright, she knows about winning out here. You had a lot of glory out here in the past, a big win out here in 2016. Let's look back a little bit and talk about what it's like to be on this stage and to take home a victory.
I think this stage is the funnest. It's progressive. It's not death-defying. So when you're really approaching this wave, you can really kind of break down performance, progression, speed, power, flow, and you can work with all those elements in a really controlled environment as you're going to get in the ocean, which is a real rarity. So I think these events, this wave particular, is just one of the most exciting for me.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Well, with the call being made, we are off for today, but we still are on that yellow alert. So big things happening just around the corner, no doubt. For us down here, we can just go back to being surf nerd super fans for the rest of the day.
Yeah, I'm here for it.
We're going to be watching the water. We're going to be cheering. We might make some signs or something, cheer for our favorite surfer. It's going to be an awesome day for us. What about you guys at the desk?
I think we're on the same program, Chris. And Tyler, I love that. That gave us so much insight into looking at the bracket, a whole new format for the Rip Curl WSL Finals and crowning our champions. And we got to see that footage of Tyler's win out here. And it really makes sense that this is where the title's being decided. Because when the women had their CT stage brought here in 2014, it really felt like a world champs event. Steph Gilmore, Carissa Moore, Tyler Wright, those were all wins on road to world titles. So now we'll have it on one day. It'll start with Joanne DeFay, Sally Fitzgibbons on screen, seed number 3, and continue to keep those predictions going, Rosie.
I absolutely love it. We'll keep a keen eye on our athletes, and I love Tyler Wright saying this is research and development for next year. I think all the athletes are kind of seeing how this format progresses the sport.
That's right, Mitch. Getting some waves, doing more research. How's it going to go today?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to surf. Actually, Tyler was spot on with what I was going to say, because I was super anxious to get things going yesterday. I had to surf twice, and the waves were terrible. So the waves being much better today, I think I'm going to get out there at least once. But it's definitely going to be great to see, especially down here right now. I know everybody's going to paddle back out. So a little bit of R&D for ourselves too.
And a lot of the fans as well will be heading up to the Rip Curl store because they've been doing a live podcast with the lineup with Dave Proden. I think today it'll be Tom Curran and Mason Ho with a live audience, and tomorrow will be Rosie Hodge as well. As you can see, the Red Bull Athlete Zone, everyone's just calming down and relaxing. Morgan Slivick will be out there in the lineup for a warm-up session. We'll say goodbye for now, but we're on yellow alert. Back down here for a call tomorrow morning at 7:30. We'll see you then. This copyrighted event broadcast is produced by the World Surf League for broadcast around the world and may not be retransmitted, reproduced, rebroadcast, or otherwise distributed or used in any form without the written consent of the World Surf League.